I am Lisa. As an artist, I work under my nan's name, Iris Hill, in tribute to her, and I am a very proud ambassador here at Deep Deep Light Studios. Our inspiration today is the ginkgo. I am very fortunate to have a ginkgo in my garden, and it has the most wonderful display of vibrant golden leaves that are showering down from the tree all over my driveway at the moment. The ginkgo tree has this really distinctive fan-shaped leaves, often with a central notch that divides them in two lobes. And as I said, they turn this striking golden yellow in the autumn, and I've had the honour of watching them transition over the past few weeks from this gorgeous green to these beautiful yellows. They represent longevity and resilience, and we're going to play with them today through our watercolour exploration. I have an A6 piece of paper, so postcard-ish size. It's quite a thin watercolour paper. We're going to be using this in our experiments, our explorations. I am going to play with several of the Deep Deep Light watercolours. Here we have Soul of the Oak. Now this one has a little bit of a surprise which I'll show you later. All is not quite as it seems. It begins this gorgeous green, but it does transition and change into some other colours, which I love about Deep Deep Light, is often there will be some hidden surprises within each pigment. Gently waking up the pigments with a little splash of water and giving them a little wiggle around. This is cloudberry and works beautifully for our ginkgo. It has a really zesty yellow, but also feels a little bit soft around the edges. My placement on the page of the two pigments is intentional, and I like to add a little band, a little ribbon of water between the pigments so I can start to get to know them and see how they're going to run into each other. This pigment is called Venus, and it is from the Velvet set. It's described as a warm yellow, which again feels very apt for today. A little bit too much water, so I'm just letting it drop serendipitously onto the page. But as you can see, it does have that really lovely warmth and almost a bit of a glow to it. Introducing J. As you can see, this is a very well used pigment of mine, and it is one of my favourites. It is the most gorgeous of blues. Starts off like an indigo blue, but again it splits out into kind of almost with like a turquoisey feathery edge, which you will see a little bit later on in this workshop video, adding a little bit more there so you can really see the depth of colour. Adding that watery river to connect up the pigments to see how they merge together and perhaps what other colours they might create. This gold is highly iridescent and super shimmery when it dries, and I am bringing it together here to connect all of those colours and those little rivers together. So when it dries, I can see that gorgeous golden shimmer reflective of that shimmer that's on the ginkgo leaves. I've left myself a little space at the bottom to add any names of pigments or write any notes to remind myself of the discoveries that I've made. Though we are being inspired by our ginkgo, you can use any leaf to create this next exploration. So I'm going to load up my brush with some cloudberry and apply it directly with sweeping brush marks onto the leaf directly. Some of the wonderful texture of the ginkgo that you can see is starting to appear, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to make a little impression, a little imprint with some of this pattern onto a piece of paper in a moment. So really loading it up and enjoying the feeling of painting onto that textured leaf. Taking an A6 or postcards-ish size piece of paper and smoothing. I love this feeling of the leaf underneath my fingertips. So you can really take your time and slow it down as you really smoosh, I love that word, smoosh, the leaf into the paper. And voila! You might think that looks like a hot mess. But it is something for us to work with and grow from. And there is some of that really fine line imprint from the leaf directly. So using the brush, we're going to use that little imprint as a guide and start to fill out that shape by looking at the leaf and also feeling our way around the page. If you don't have access to a ginkgo leaf and you would actually like to play with the shape, you can always sketch it out first with a fine line pencil, or perhaps draw the outline with your brush, but make it nice and loose and watery, and just really paying attention to that distinctive shape, that fan shape of the leaves with that central notch missing, and then it divides out into two lobes, because that's what will make it really distinctively a ginkgo. Mixing up my colour palette and grabbing hold of that wonderful soul of the oak and just popping it in a little central point of the leaf to see how that blends, how it moves, and allowing for a little bit of a happy accident or a beautiful oops moment at the end to see where that colour, that pigment settles. And I've noticed on some of the outer edges of the leaves that I have on my painting table that there is a bit of a darker yellow hue. So I'm using that cloudberry to add a little bit more depth of pigment around those outer edges. So I like to use this little very lightly tapping technique. It's almost like my brush is dancing ever so lightly around the page. And also can't resist adding a little bit of Venus just to see what happens. A little beautiful oops as that pigment dribbles down the page. It was meant to happen. So let's see what perhaps it becomes. Preparing with a fresh sheet of paper, we're now going to almost create an outline, the reverse of what we've just done. So I'm going to place the leaf directly on the page and with water, so just clear fresh water, painting that around the shape. Really flood the page with water and in the little nooks and crannies. and being inspired by that shape and creating a very fluid, liquidy puddle in all that negative space, the space around your chosen object, in this case a leaf. Personally, I really enjoy this part of the process. Perhaps my brush is moving a little bit speedy right now, but you can slow this down. Take your time, there's no rush. Take the time to waste a moment and enjoy painting water on the page before you lift it up and give it that little reveal. And you can see just that outline. I have added a lot of water, so now we're going to fill it with delicious J pigment, so you can start to see that outline really pop and become visible. One of the most distinctive marks to create with this leaf, or any leaf actually, is that long spindly stem. So really carve that out on the page with the brush, really delicately find that outline of that thin stem, because that will make all the difference. Perhaps even incorporating the leaf itself to make those marks. There really are textural ridges on these leaves, and on most leaves you'll find these really intricate and amazing vein patterns. And by using the stem of the leaf to dip directly into your pigment, you get these wonderful spindly, scratchy vein marks. And there is no rush. You slow this down as much as you like. You can go into real detail and look closer at the object that you have perhaps in front of you. Here I'm moving quite quickly along to fill the space, but please do enjoy this part of the process and make it your own. Adding depth of colour, building up that J pigment, and you can see here how it started to split out. So it started off that dark deep indigo, but you can really start to see now that almost turquoisey, icy like blue as it separates out and reaches out to the edges of the page. add a couple of golden hot spots and bringing that cloudberry back into play, and just a couple of areas, dabbing, tapping, allowing that pigment to move with the J pigment that already is on the page. I'm really holding my brush very lightly, so be aware of how you are holding your brush. Can you loosen up your grip so it's like a soft hold? That will make a different mark on your page, so really play around with how you are gripping your paintbrush. Last few marks, and time for me to place my paintbrush down as I allow the piece to dry and see what has happened. Some time has passed, it's not completely dry, as you can see there's still some dribbles, but this is really showcasing that J pigment, and you can see those feathery lighter edges that I mentioned at the beginning of the workshop. And this one's completely dry. I love all those flares and those tumbles and those marks, almost quite ethereal the way that it has settled. And the piece that we began with, that golden shimmer around the edge, that really highlighting zingy poppy gold, which is just so fun to play with. I'm going to add a little bit more, I think. So now that it's dry, you can always go in and work on a little bit more detail using a really thin edge brush, holding it really lightly at the top. So allowing those marks that are being made to be a little bit freer, haven't got much control over them, just letting them almost move of their own accord a little bit. Now you may remember I said that the soul of the oak pigment had a little surprise. So what began as a green is now a burgundy purple tone. You can see here on that central part of the leaf, and again showcased here that transition from green to purple. A beautiful example of that iridescent shimmer catching the light, just letting it play with the light. Another idea, here's another one that I prepared earlier, is to cut out these shapes because you can turn them into the most beautiful bookmarks if you're an avid book reader like myself, or if you want to gift them to others. So taking a little bit of care to go around the outer edges and create your Ginkgo bookmark. On behalf of myself, Iris Hill, and Deep Deep Light Watercolors, I would like to say a huge thank you for your curiosity on our ginkgo leaf exploration, and I hope you're able to bring some of that curiosity and playfulness with watercolour into your own practice. A poem by Iris Hill. Sometimes I imagine myself as a leaf, my big toe delicately attached to a branch, as I unfurl myself to its fullest in spring, taking up space in summer, and breathing into my edges in the fall. If I were a leaf, I would already trust when to let go, releasing myself to the breeze of what is to come, knowing that I would float safely to the ground, surrendering to a peaceful stillness in winter. The longer I observe the trees, the more their wisdom feeds me.